today. So we have 5 guests. So first, Kel. Tracy Singster. From St. George, right? Yes. Bonnie Lord, and you'll be introduced a little later. Kevin Unrath and Elena. Right. So, first thing we're going to do is bring up Kel. Come on up, Kel. So Kel's going to give our inspiration for today. 5 minutes. Yeah, we're also going to bring up Leslie. So before we do that, it's also a special day or a near special day for 2 people. One is Kel. His birthday was last week. Oh, so it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. In Club Runner, it is. So we'll fix that. All right. So either way, you get blueberries. And the second is June in 2 days. Saturday, 2 days. Should we sing? Should we sing?
I hope so.
Chris's birthday just have not been booked.
You don't have to tell them the year. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Judith Ellen. Happy birthday to you.
Meeting held at Dragon Days in St. George this year. He really accosted us, actually. We were just sitting at a table trying to be professional. And he just rolled in. And the rest is history.
Yeah, I jumped in the middle of the table crumbled.
It was kind of
Everyone's kind of screamed. In a good way. In a good way.
So anyway, as you can see, we're all from brothers and sisters. Well, maybe grandmother and grandmother. Anyway, so ever since you joined the board, as a non-member, you have actually been a tremendous. Oh, yeah. You have really stepped up and joined all kinds of activities, all kinds of projects. And so I really look forward to spending a lot more time with you. Really a pleasure to have you here. You're a lot of fun. I was going to have a stressed out today, but there were other reasons we couldn't. But anyway, we will do that at some point. So, Kel, if you want to see his resume, it's pretty impressive. There's a lot of activity from this young man. But I think suffice it to say, he's a lot of fun. He cares a lot. He has a big heart and a lot of energy. So welcome to our club.
Thank you so much.
No. Where's the hook in a second? Okay. I do this a little more formal. So Kel, you've been chosen to membership in Rotary Club of Williston-Richmond. Could you manifest the qualities that head of heart to interpret and impart the message of Rotary? We also expect much from you in help and inspiration today, which will enable us to be better Rotarians. And with this, we hope we most heartily offer you Rotary Fellowship. Cal, I wish you're impressed that you have been admitted not only in the Rotary Club of Williston, Vermont, of a worldwide association. By virtue of your membership in this club, you welcome to any fellowship in any Rotary Club in the world. The honor and privilege of Rotary membership carries with it duties and obligations. You will be expected to attend club meetings regularly, perform your share of club service, which you do, and you do, and place your knowledge and talents at the disposal of the club in its task of carrying the principles of Rotary in the daily life of the community. The community will know and judge Rotary through their embodiment of character service. We accept you as a member because you believe our principles and organizations safe in your keeping. I ask all members to rise. Hal, it is now my pleasure, in the name of Rotary Club of Williston, I formally admit you to membership in this club, and I ask that your sponsor affix, cheered label, or emblem.
No longer have a sharp point.
They get blue, they get chests.
The magnet through my hearing.
Your official badge.
Official badge.
Would you like me to affix?
Oh,
Oh, look at, oh, I need a picture of the change. There we go.
Fantastic. All right. Oh my gosh.
No, you better put it, I don't want
And
that.
that's the best of all. And
Oh, yeah, I'm so
and your Rotary blueberries.
There we go.
Welcome.
Yes.
There we go.
Thank you so much, everybody.
So Cal's also going to give our inspiration today. And if he wants to say anything else.
Okay.
Now I have a mic. Listen, so you know I'm a professor, which means I lecture for a living. So now you're in for it. I haven't lectured all summer. How many hours? Usually my lectures are 3 hours, just so you know. And it's just like 5 minutes.
3 hours.
But first of all, I want to thank Leslie for being an incredible sponsor and an incredible person who accosted me as I was coming in at the St. George. No, you all are an amazing group. Like really, just fantastic. You know, somebody that I told you I've lived all over the world, and this is a special group. I feel really honored to be a part of it. So thank you for your kind welcome. But I'm going to get to my story now. Hey, okay. All right, I'll try and keep it under 5 minutes. This is giving the stink eye. So this story is about a horse named Clyde. And this is out in California, out in the Point Reyes National Forest, which is a little bit near where I was born and raised, even though I didn't live there most of the time growing up. But it's like I can consider California kind of home still. Well, now Vermont. Anyway, Clyde was a quarter horse per Vermont that I was allowed to take out. He was a trail horse. And because I worked on ranches, you know, in my youth, they let me just take him out from the rental place. I didn't have to go out with a guide or anything. I'm like, yeah, take him, you're good. So Clyde and I went out. We were out in the Point Reyes National Forest and Seashore, and we're riding along. And I'm like, this is so great. I'm like excited. So I start singing, and Clyde's like walking along. His ears are flicking. He's listening to me. You know, this is awesome. And we're going into this kind of wooded area, and Clyde stops. He just stops. And I'm like, you know, what's going on? What's going on? He stops, and I'm like, okay, I'm like really patient, right? I'm not like one of these people who needs like excitement when they go horseback riding. That's not me. I'm just like, you know, I've done that when I was younger. It's just like, I just want to go to a nice ride in the forest. So I'm like, I'm not in a hurry to get anywhere. So I kind of let him stand there for a minute. I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's go. Go, Clyde. Give him a kick. He's like, no. And like, no, nothing. Like, didn't buck, didn't rear, didn't put his head, like his ears back. I'm like, did we break the horse? You know, look at her. He's like, is there a foot missing? What happened? What's up? Let's go. Where did we go? Nope. And I'm like, I think the first rules of being out on a trail, right, is you just don't get off. Like, right, you just never know what's gonna happen, right? They're gonna bolt off into the trees and you're gonna have to walk 45 miles home, or like, who knows, right? So I'm like, I'm not getting off this horse. Like, something's going on. Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on? Like, I sing to him a little bit more. Literally, we sat there for 10 minutes. He will not budge. My dude. No, nope. So finally, I said, well, I don't have any choice. I'm gonna have to see if he'll turn around and go the other way. So I'm just about to turn him around. And I look off down the trail. And I'm like, why is there a speed bump in the trail? Sort of weird. You know, it's like this tan trail going off into the forest, and then there's just like all the way across the trail. And I go, that's a mountain lion. It was like a really, really big mountain lion. And he was lying fully across the trail. That's how big he was. Right. And this is a trail that cars could fit on. Like, I swear to God, it was a big trail. This was a big mountain. And of course, this lion gets bigger every time I tell the story. So
Yeah.
and I'm looking at the lion and I look down at Clyde and I'm like, I see your point. I see your point, I do. Clyde's like, that's right. So we turn very slowly around. Clyde's like, I'm okay in this direction. I'm like, yep, you know what? Awesome. Awesome. Let's go in this direction. So we walked very slowly. Clyde didn't bolt and shy. He didn't do anything. He kind of flicked his ears back every once in a while. And all of a sudden he's like kind of looking on the side over here and his ears kind of flicking out this way. And I'm like, are you serious? Right? I keep like looking up in the trees. I'm like, I'm gonna be a snack in a few minutes here. No, we just keep riding. He's just walking calmly, like nothing in the world has happened. It was fine. We just turned around. He was happy with that. We go very quietly and slowly all the way down to the ranger station. I am telling you guys, have never seen a group of human beings as excited as those park rangers. Because I ride in there, a tie-up flag, which was kind of an experience in and of itself. They had a hitching post outside the ranger station. I'm like, I feel like I'm in a lab. What's this amazing? I climb up, I walk inside, I'm like, hey guys, there's a mountain lion out there. Literally, they're radioing like 7 other parks. Like so exciting. It's like a party. They're having me describe it. They're like the witness guy comes and like draws like a picture of it, you know, just the face, the shape of it. I kid you not. They try to figure out, well, is it a male or a female? I'm like, listen, we did not stop that long. Like, oh, they were so excited. And I went back out and got back on Clyde and we had a fantastic hour or so right after that. I went back to the stable. But what it taught me was this. First of all, when a horse stops, like listen. Like listen, right? I mean, there's a lot of scenarios in which as a different rider, I might have forced the issue, you know, like I'm a human, I'm in charge, let's go. Right. That's just kind of not my personality anyway, especially when I'm out trail riding. And you know, horses aren't stupid, right? Especially trail horses, right? And so I listened to him and he led me on a much safer path. And sometimes if we kind of just calm down and listen and look, we're okay, you know, and not forcing him to get on the trail made everything all right. And we get it back to the ranger station and then the rangers down there were, I mean, you've never seen a happier group than me. I was there for half an hour describing this one down my own line. I felt like a celebrity. And that taught me another thing too, like framing is everything, right? Clyde could have bolted, we could have gotten into some problems, it could have wound up in the trees, like, he kind of gotten really badly, right? But Clyde was chill about it and the rangers were excited about it. And so my experience of seeing California mountain man was only wonder, you know, it was just wonder. That's all that was left to me because every creature, including the horse, just kind of reacted as though this were okay. And so my whole experience of it was framed as being like just fine. And I have no moment in that entire experience that was not positive. Yeah.
The Clyde only had to run faster than you.
That's right. Yeah. That's why he was calm. Exactly. But yeah, and I think just in terms of like our lives, you know, it's I mean things can go really wrong, right? But there's a moment when we're approaching a thing that can go badly where we can say, okay, we have a choice of how to deal with this. We have a choice on how to see this. And yeah, some things are, you know, potentially bad, but let's not get there before we get there. And if things don't go badly, you know, where was the joy and adventure in it? So I'll leave you with that.
Thank you, Cal. And I trust you weren't lying.
Don't look at me.
Yeah.
Want to bring up the speaker chair.
All right. Today we have the pleasure of having some librarians come speak to us. So we have Bonnie Lord. She's the Assistant Director of Youth Services at Dorothy Alling Memorial Library, and she has worked there for 4 years. Prior to that, she worked as an academic librarian at Vermont Technical College. She has a Master of Library and Information Science and a Master of Arts in Education. This is her second year on the Green Mountain Book Awards Committee, where she worked with librarians, teachers, and students across the state to nominate books for the annual Young Adult Book Award in Vermont. In her spare time, she crafts and enjoys time with her chickens, who, if you don't know, are all named for Shakespeare characters. She's such a librarian. We also have Unrath, who's the new library director. After earning his master's in library science at the University of Illinois in 2000, Kevin has worked in library management and administration for the past 25 years. He served as the director of 2 busy libraries in Vermont, Middlebury and Shelburne, and is the past president of the Vermont Library Association. Most recently, Kevin worked as a consultant for library operations for the Vermont Department of Libraries, where he advised public libraries around the state on best practices related to governance, policy, daily operations, and building. Kevin lives in Jericho with his wife Megan and their 2 school-aged children. Welcome. We're excited to hear from you.
Morning, everybody. So, how many of you have played Four Truths and a Lie before? Would someone like to describe it in a sentence or 2? What's the game? Four Truths and a Lie.
Basically, you say, I guess if you talk things. Oh, you say 5 things about yourself, and then it's like an icebreaker, people have to guess which one is the lie.
Exactly. So you say 5 things about yourself, and you have to guess which one's the lie. We actually play this over dinner sometimes at home, and it's so easy, as we know. But so this is Four Truths and a Lie, Great Libraries version. And I'm going to give you the 5 points, and you can try to guess which one is the lie. Okay. So great libraries are institutions of learning. Great libraries build community. Great libraries keep a town's history. Great libraries are sustainable organizations. And great libraries have something for everyone. Great, we got some consensus. I'll let Bonnie take over now so I can rewrite. All right, we'll start with institutions of learning. That is true, absolutely. So Benjamin Franklin founded the first public library in the United States in Philadelphia in 1731. Thomas Jefferson had a personal library at Monticello that some of you probably know became the Library of Congress. He sold his books, he didn't get them, he sold them to the government. That became the Library of Congress. The first free public library in the United States. So Benjamin Franklin's library was a subscription. You had to pay to be a member of that one. But the first free public library, anybody know what state that was in? New Hampshire. Very good, Elizabeth. It was in Petersboro, New Hampshire in 1837. And the reason I bring this up is because a democratic nation like the United States needs an informed citizen. So we had on the outside of my library where I worked as a grad student at the University of Illinois, etched in the wall, University of Illinois is a land-grant institution, part of that movement to educate farmers and other folks on how to improve their farming, how to improve their civic infrastructure, how to improve themselves. We had etched on the wall, the hope of democracy depends on the diffusion of knowledge and wisdom. And that really struck me when I was sitting outside on my lunch break from my graduate assistantship. And I've remembered it throughout my career because we need a way for everyday citizens to learn and to grow after they get out of school. or when they get out of school and they come over after school. It's the fundamental part of what libraries do. So I have an interesting fact along those lines as well. Guess how many items a person per person in Williston get checked out per year by our public library? The items does every person in Williston, if everybody used our library, check out? Per year, that would be a lot.
Yeah.
I'd love to get there. It's lower. That's a good guess. It's actually 13 items, so more than one per month, which is in the top 10% of libraries. I looked at the statistics. So you're doing well, Williston and St. George. 2 members here, so. All right. So let's move on to building community. Great libraries build community. That one is also true. We welcome people to the library to come and interact. We're an inclusive space. Anybody can walk in the library. You don't have to buy a coffee. You don't have to be a member. You can come in, you can use the computers. A lot of folks at the libraries around our area are members of the Home Current or One Current, so they can come in and use our library, even though they're not a resident here, for free. We host a ton of events. We host discussions, programs that bring people in who maybe come from different backgrounds, who are different ages, who have different philosophies, and they're there together in one space, which is meaningful. And I have a fact along those lines as well. This was original research I did. Don't keep me to this from academic standards, please, Cal. But I went on Zillow and performed a search in May. And I looked at the 200 most recent residential listings nationwide. And I saw what the median price was, which was $432,000. And then I ran the same search with public libraries in the keyword spot. So this would be a listing where the agent either said, you're close to a public library, let's put that in the description. Or they have a great public library. And so they put that in their listing. So the average price for someone who listed public libraries was $510,000, or 18% higher for listings that have public library, which to me means that libraries are a selling point for the community. Just to make sure that my methodology was accurate, I did the same thing for the word beaches, also increased.
Yeah.
But if you listed zoo, your values were lower.
Yeah.
All right, so point 3, great libraries keep a town's history. That was also true. We're lucky to have a wonderful partnership with the Williston Historical Society. They've been housed in our building, I'm not sure how long it's been. But yeah, so he's going on 40 years. We have a unique collection of documents, photographs, objects, rare books. They ensure that the history of this particular community is maintained, kept alive for our generation and for future generations. And this is something that every public library I've worked at and every public library I've seen, this has been a part of what they've done, regardless of how big or how small. So keepers of that local history. And I looked it up in Vermont, there are 190 local historical societies. And that's about one historical society for every 3,300 people.
Somebody's phone is going off. Oh.
To say that is also true. Not every library is sustainable, but a great library should be sustainable. And I mean sustainable in terms of obviously funding. We're very well funded here in Williston. We're lucky to have that support, but also sustainable in terms of something that promotes sustainability. So libraries are the original green organizations. We've been part of the sharing economy for 200 years before it was a phrase used. So an average library book circulates 26 times before it's taken out of the collection. So that's 25 physical copies of the book that you didn't need to buy. So that saved residents of Williston, St. George, $2 million last year. But it also saved, I did the math on this one, and nobody hold me to this, but the average tree can make 100 books. That's what I read. And we circulated 100,000 items last year, which means not only did we save $2 million for taxpayers for borrowing those, but we saved 1,000 trees worth of paper last year. And that's, just one example of what we do. We have a library of things. We have a community living room where people can come and sit down and read. And maybe if our expansion goes through, people won't have to build their houses quite as big, but they can come in and use our space to work. So we are a sustainable organization. So the last item, great libraries have something for everyone. That's the one that's false. Or it's partially false. So I would phrase it this way. Good libraries have something for everyone. But great libraries have something to offend everyone. You should walk in a great library and see something on the shelf that pisses you off. So, give you a couple examples that are real world examples from the 3 months I've been here in Williston. I have seen titles in the children's room that relate to gender diversity that I know if I was working at one of the libraries I worked at in Florida or in North Carolina these days would not even be on the shelf because they were too offensive to people in charge there. And I'll give you another example that may head closer to home. We bought Newt Gingrich's book about Trump's triumph because it was a bestseller, because it was requested. I've come to the library 3 times now, seen it turned around. People couldn't find it. And but I will say we consider that a form of censorship because people can't find it. So we've got something in our library that pisses most people off here too, which I think, it's for a great library. But I want to talk just briefly before I turn it over to Bonnie about this information environment that we are in and give a little background. We experience, whether we know it or not, a lot of filtering bubbles, echo chambers, groupthink. We're directed either through social media that we assume to have one perspective that gets narrower and narrower, or the people we spend time with who are around us, who maybe have similar opinions to us, because that's who we want to hang out with. But the library provides a diversity of opinion and a diversity of people as well that you don't see every day, that I think is really important and goes back to that first point about a vibrant democracy. You don't just want to run into ideas that confirm what you already believe. You want to come across ideas that maybe expand the way you think. And that's what great libraries are really good at. That concludes my talk. I'm happy to answer a question or two, but I'd like to turn it over to Bonnie to talk about the expansion and renovation, and maybe we can take questions then. But if anybody has something burning right now, I'd be happy to try to answer. All right, Bonnie.
Thinking so.
People on the slides, if I just you would say.
I am. Yes.
Thank you. So we talked about libraries pretty broadly, but I'm going to narrow this down so we can talk specifically about Dorothy and Williston, and I'm going to focus on the library aspect. So a lot of this information may be something you've heard before, or it might be totally new to you, just depending on how many select board meetings you've been to or what. So, if we can go to the next page, just scroll down a little. Okay. I really wanted to underscore the community input piece of the proposed expansion project. This started with a townwide scoping study in 2023 with just about 1,000 participants, which in a community the size of Williston is quite frankly a pretty good turnout for any sort of survey. So what we found from this scoping study was that there was an identified strong desire for the library to remain exactly where it was in the village. And part of that was the proximity to the school. And part of it is that it was close to the town office,
close to the police department and close to things that people wanted to know where they were and they wanted to be comfortable with. After the scoping study, we moved on to create a schematic design committee. So the schematic design committee was formed in 2024, and it included community members and library trustees. Our previous director, Jane Kearns, and I sat in on it in an advisory role, just in case people had questions about, does this actually need to be in a library, or do you really need bookshelves for books anymore? Things like that. So we were able to answer those questions, but we didn't have decision-making input in any meaningful way. This committee worked with architects from Black River Design. They developed a renovation and expansion plan and a cost estimate. So in the news last Thursday, I believe it was, Williston Observer, you may have seen an article about the estimate of the cost estimate of the expansion that includes the library and the town green. So originally it was 13.5 million. With some of the economic uncertainties, it has been increased to 15 million as the estimate right now. So next in 2025,
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. The capital campaign feasibility study just wrapped up recently. That was part of the discussion at the select board meeting last month. And we worked with CPG fundraising firm to determine if there was support for the project. And if there was there also charitable support, which would be important because the goal is if this proposed expansion goes forward, it would be funded through a combination of municipal funds, but also charitable giving. So throughout this process, the library's board of trustees has been involved and their approval has been sought, as well as the town's select board. And you can see that next steps, these are all potential, would be the select board's going to meet again. 19th of August. That's the other. So either they're going to say, yes, let's move forward and put this to a bond vote. So it would then at that point be voted on in winter or spring. So sometime in the nearish future. Or they might say the scope, like there's a couple different ways this might be like, the scope is too large and we need to pull back, or maybe now it's not the right time. So right now this is all potential, but I just wanted to make sure we kind of do the basic outline of what this might look like, as well as the town input that has been sought along the way. So I'm gonna, if we scroll to the next one, I'm gonna pause here just for a minute. I can read these off, but I'm gonna go into more detail. So some of the needs that are addressed by the proposed expansion plan include space for community connections and interactions, an expanded youth area to support families and children of all ages, larger dynamic space that I put in place, space programming space. We run space. Putting spaces in quiet area, because I might be the loudest librarian you're ever going to meet, but there are people who still want to go to the library for quiet. We need part of the needs that were addressed for town green improvements. So things like having a performance platform large enough to host like some of the theaters that come forward, especially our town band that's always growing, and things like having pathways so to improve accessibility, because right now something that we've heard is people who go to the town band, some of them feel uncomfortable going through the grass with mobility issues, or some of them with strollers may not feel comfortable moving through paths. So these are some of the needs that are addressed, and this one I feel like always gets people really excited and happy. Traffic flow improvements. So the number of conflict points along Library Lane, as well as Central School Drive, by including a turn lane and having dedicated parking. So if we go to the next slide, and you will also see on this one closest to me, might be a little bit larger. So these are all looking at, I will try to describe it also. Some of the things that were talked about in this discussion was doubling the square footage, roughly doubling the square footage of the library. Now you'll see that the footprint that will be added, this blue box here, it's in blue up there too. It doesn't actually double the size of the library in the actual footprint, because it would be a 2-story addition, about half a story down from the existing library. So it would keep the roof line low. Part of what we wanted to look at was not impacting the view of the town green. We want that to stay green. So that was one of the big things. And then the pathways for accessibility, you'll see right now there's like a pathway that kind of cuts sort of straight across. So this would create this kidney shaped loop here. I'm not an anatomy person. I think that's a kidney shape. It would have sidewalks directly to the library. It would have the platform for performance kind of up here attached to these sidewalks. It would help people get right up to where they need to be. It activates more of the green so that you can get to more of it without having to walk through the bushy parts of the grass. And then it would increase seating. So throughout this, and I can't point to them directly because they're little gray squares, so it's a little too small for me to reach from here, but there would be some increased seating to kind of help people stay engaged in the green. And if they want to linger, they would have that option. We talked about the performance platform. So one of the things about this that I haven't mentioned yet is part of the proposed plan. It's not just putting a platform here, it's also using landscaping here to reduce traffic noise so that when there's performances from the town band, from local theaters, from whoever might be using it, you would be able to hear them even though it's not blocked by the building or even though it, like it might have different sorts of landscaping to protect it from the noise, but the idea would be that it would be national. So Kevin did the 4 truths and a lie. I'm going to do just a myth that I've been hearing from people that I just wanted to address because I know this is really important to people. And it was really important to the schematic design committee. It was something that they brought up in the meetings. There's this myth that if the expansion goes through, all the trees are going to get cut down, and they're not. There were some trees that were identified as needing to come down either in order to do the renovation or because the age of the tree, or if it was a softwood tree or a non-native tree, an invasive tree. So there were a couple that were identified as potentially needing to come down if the expansion goes through. But more plants would be going in. I think Kevin did the math on this. He is our math person, and it was a net gain of 3 trees overall. So I just want to make sure that nobody gets worried about the trees. We love the trees also. And then the last thing was the traffic improvements. I did want to point that out here. So right now parking is along this road. And what that means is there are, I think we have 14 parking spots right now. Each one of those is a conflict because you back right up into oncoming traffic. If anyone has been there when there's like a soccer game or something going on, and there's people from out of town driving in to get to that soccer game and traffic is just like speeding on, we have had accidents in front of our library a lot. So it would reduce that impact. Something that's not shown on this plan, it was added later, would be on that side when you're trying to get out of that area on Central School Drive, a turn lane for people who want to turn left. So helping the traffic flow more smoothly and reducing those conflict points. So if we can go to the next slide. I'm sorry, I talk a lot, so I'm gonna try to do this quickly. So this is all about the what would happen inside with the proposed plan. So one of the big things that I talk about as the youth services librarian is the increased children's space. Right now, we do have a picture book room, but also in that picture book room, we have a puppet stage, we have a table, we have a taller computer where they can beat up on a keyboard and a mouse without actually breaking something important. Like we have all these things that they can use, and it's all in this small room with a chair for one person to sit in for story time or to watch their children's puppet theater play. And then we have the other room. So we have picture book room and then the other youth room, and it's every single age all the way up to 18. So this plan, what this does is it kind of breaks out this youth area and creates the picture book room stays there, but all that play that they're doing moves into this wiggle space. So all of a sudden the picture book room is a place where you can find books. You're not tripping over puppets. You're not tripping over little fire trucks. The costumes are going to get moved into the wiggle space. So all of that educational and hands-on learning that children are doing can still happen, but in a more contained space. And then strollers will fit in the picture book room. So you could bring your baby in there to look for books. It would move young adult books. So all the teens would be moved over here to give them their own space. Right now, if you've been in our youth section, you may have noticed that graphic novels, which are widely popular, go straight from juvenile to young adult on the same bookshelf because that's the only space we have. So then you run into the 8-year-old coming up to you with a book that's intended for an 18-year-old. And I'm never gonna tell someone no, but I will tell them, I just want to make sure you know that this is for teenagers and this would help remove that conflict. They can still access those books. It is not removing them from their ability to read them, but it's making it an intention. Okay. So create space over here would be included. That would be making sure that makerspace items were accessible. Right now, that is a piece of equity that gets talked a lot about in education, but not necessarily in other places. Makerspaces, coding, things like that. These are all things that are really cool that you can do a lot with, but you only have access to it if you can afford a 3D printer or if you can afford a computer that you can code on. So this makes that more accessible. It could also be used in programming space. I only have 1 minute. I'm going to jump right up here to the community room. Right now, our community room is a hot item. It is very hard for people to use it between library programming, between outside groups, and multiple people wanting to use it at once. This would create a larger space. It's that blue corner up there. You can see that there's a divider, so it could be made into 2 smaller spaces at will. And that would allow for more library programming, larger library programming, and also outside groups would be able to use this even if there was a library program. So everything else, I'm actually going to bite my tongue on. I want to make sure there's time for questions and everything. But I also just wanted to say thank you while I was here. The Rotary Club has sponsored a lot of different kits and items and programs for the library. About half of you had the opportunity to meet Roswell the robot today. So I just wanted to say thank you. Kevin mentioned the average library item goes out 13 times per person in Williston. The kits that you all have helped us sponsor for circulation have an average of 21. So thank you.
Okay, we're gonna open up for questions.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I missed the 4 minutes in a line. I probably need to hear those because my response may be focused on that. And so all of the work and thoughtfulness and creativity that's gone into this. And as a husband of someone who is mobility challenged and by a wheelchair, accessibility is a big issue. I don't want to speak for my wife because she didn't hear your presentation, but I know she loves the village green. And so it's one who might be an intended beneficiary of this. There still is some resistance. Boy, I'm all for it. The library expansion. Love the library. I'm all for the village green. And I'm just wishing that there'd be a way to establish both. I spend a lot, I walk my dogs over here often. Was there just yesterday, did 4. Yeah, I saw 2 trees that look like they might be come down. The others are beautiful and they're right where that parking lot's going to be. I'm grieving what is being proposed here, even though I celebrate that library expansion. Now, often not often, but sometimes among leaders in our community raise the question if there is this conversation about seeking private money to fund some of this. So why I aim for the stars and find a way. I love both and solutions. And this is a very creative solution. There's not both hands, right? There might be a both hand solution out there. It'd be very expensive, but there might be folks who say, yes, I want library expansion, and yes, I want to save village green. If there's a way to do that, maybe I'll put some dollars to that. And I don't know that that conversation's happened yet. And I'd love to see that conversation take place because this is a beautiful plan, but we're losing something here. There is a loss, and I'm grieving.
So thank you a lot for bringing that up. It is something that we've been hearing and that I do want to reiterate. It is something that's taken into consideration. The goal is not to lose the town green, but if the library expands on the village, of course, part of that does include the town green. So part of what the schematic design committee discussed, and it is not 100% solution, so I'm not trying to minimize at all what you brought up because it is something that is taken very seriously. But would be, I'm going to step back over here. Part of the cost would be actually kind of grading this area to bring it up because right now there is a part of the town green that is less usable based on where the water table is versus how low it is. It doesn't fully address, like you were bringing up, the fact that this portion right here would no longer necessarily be town green. Small components were added in the hopes of addressing this, such as this road is actually a little bit narrower. It'd be bringing the green in this way to help minimize the impact there, since the parking wouldn't be along that road. And it would be including like smaller areas that would be usable a little bit differently than they are now. And it is a hard thing. So that was part of the scoping study when people said that they wanted it to stay in the village green. Not everyone did. It was what we heard the most of, but it was not everybody. And it is something that, like I said, we've been taking into consideration, and I'm sure that that is a larger discussion. If the expansion gets approved to go to bond, I'm sure it'll be a larger discussion then. I can also say that during the capital campaign feasibility study, that was something I believe that was asked, was sort of how the town green fit into this and how people felt about that. So it's something that it's still a growing piece of input.
Okay, I think we're out of questions. Any other questions? Hopefully you guys stay around just for a couple minutes after we ask, but we're just very, very tight on time.
In gratitude for you speaking with us today, we'll make a donation to the Williston Central School Mentoring Program. Here's a little thank you card from them. And very important, we need someone to take a raffle ticket. Would you like to do that?
Sure.
And if you'll read the last three numbers.
381.
All right, 381. Thank you so much for being here today.
So you also get blueberries. So in, because we're extremely tight on time, we're gonna have to actually go to admin time. So I'm gonna bypass Jen's conversation today. She was gonna do it next week. We had a couple announcements. If we have time at the end before 8:30, if happy finds go quickly, we can bring up the announcements. I will be remiss though, that there are two more guests that I did not introduce. One is Nancy Stone, who was online, and the other is Reg Melrose. So, thank you guys for joining us. Good morning. Good morning.
I really enjoyed that presentation. 4 truths and a lie, was that what you called it? I've got 4 jokes and a dud. So I just learned that at the end of life, your pupils are the last thing to stop working. They dilate.
That was not the done, yes. My shirt says, that would take longer to grow old. So, $2 for librarians, very great library. One of the first things we did when we moved back to Williston in December was get a library card for Williston library card. We're back. We spent 5 years in South Burlington to get that library card. It's great, great library. I often, when I have to DJ a wedding and something comes up, instead of downloading it from Apple Music or somewhere or paying, go to the library and I find them there sometimes. Some great selection of music and a great selection of other things you can write to. Games, have a game night for families and all the backyard games, indoor games. It's a great selection. And speaking of music, I actually had the pleasure of DJing Bonnie's wedding last June 22nd, I think.
And what is
Yeah.
it? For DJ.
And happy vibes, I guess. I'm going to be spending some time in Dartmouth the next 2 days, 3 days. Today, after this meeting, I'm going down. And wife's got an autoimmune disorder that she's had battling for several years. And we found a specialist there at Dartmouth, so seeing her this afternoon. And then I'm DJing the event for the Children's Hospital at Dartmouth on Saturday, the big fundraiser. So time in Dartmouth. Looking forward to that.
All right, thanks for the shameless plugs. Yep. Charlie? What? No. No, you can't. Come on.
First of all, thank you so much, Bonnie and Kevin. I always rave about our library. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. So thank you for all that you do. And this is my little plug. It's happy, sad, and scary. And I'm really grateful for
Elizabeth?
For the library, I'm happy to say that Elena and I are way above average in the library. Anyway,
and all the work that you two have done.
Right, thank you. All right, what's the difference between a well-dressed person on a unicycle and a poorly dressed person on a bicycle? Boy,
One tire.
A tire.
that's not the,
Yeah, so I have three happy times. One is, for Kevin, thank you. Mine's been a long time friend of Rotary. Kevin, hopefully you'll be a long time friend of Rotary, come back again. Really wish we had like a full hour, talk about it. There's probably a lot of questions that people had. The second fine is for Kel. Congrats on your day. The third is also for Kel, because Kel has agreed next week when Debbie's off to run the IT. And we know that nobody else in this room can run IT. So,
Possibly not me.
we'll have that done. Thank you.
Best to you. Thank you, Vince.
Okay. First dollar, because one of the reasons that we moved to Williston is the library. And our house wasn't gonna be ready for us to move in, so we were renting over in Stowe. And we came to the library and asked if we could use the library, even though we hadn't moved in yet. And lo and behold, what do we meet? But they knew at that time, the new town manager's wife, who also was from Connecticut, and that was the first thing she did do. So that's wonderful. Second one is something that may not now happen. I was a trustee for the library, our bookmobile broke down. And we tried to figure out, should we try to replace it or should we just let it go? And even though it was like in early October, we decided we were gonna go for it and see if we couldn't raise money to have one made specially. And so we encouraged the people to participate by donation. We had several kids come in with their piggy bank. And paid them. So I know you're not looking at that level of involvement anyway, but the real commitment in this town is toward the library.
Thank you. Well said.
And Chris is like one of the trustees.
Which days of the week are the strongest? Saturday and Sunday, the rest are weekdays. That's not the,
First of all, I want to welcome Kel. It was delightful to first meet him. And we chatted over at that gathering at St. George. And these little chats tend to bring people in. Like I chatted with Leslie when we went, right? So it's kind of nice to know that
one discussion brings the next one and so on. The next one is for Bonnie. We've worked together a long time. Glad that Jude mentioned the bookmobile because the club contributed a nice amount of money to the bookmobile, as well as many of the other things that we've been able to assist with. The third dollar I'm going to mention is I appreciate Charlie's little comment about my spouse. He will talk a little bit more about the health profession. We're going to be down in New York and I will keep you informed about what's going on. And I appreciate having everybody's thoughts and prayers for us. So we can turn it over to you, Mark.
I don't have anything specific to say. Well, we did have, we had an interesting day yesterday. Sort of the worst healthcare nightmare you can imagine. It's always fun being a patient. Much prefer being there on the other end. But we found at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that we weren't covered for this thing. And make a long story short, because it's a very boring story, but it turns out the people who were providing the information from our plan, which is one of these Medicare Advantage plans, didn't even know the correct coverage. And they were giving misinformation to the people down at Columbia University Medical Center. So it took 24 hours to figure that out. So that's all I got to say.
Thanks, Marty.
So the reason that Kel has to cover for me next week is because I'm going to Savannah in North Carolina to visit my sisters. So I'm excited about that. Bad news about that is my sister last night told me in Savannah it's probably going to be 100 degrees and around 90% humidity while we're there, but that's okay. I grew up in that, so there you go.
All right, Sally, here you go.
First, thank you to the library people. I don't remember what her title was, but Marty Gibbs was the head librarian, whatever. She was a Rotary member, so you might want to think about that. Welcome to the club. You didn't mention it, but any of us who have seen wildlife in and around our area also experience the magical feeling of witnessing wildlife in the wild. It's really a very good experience, which I imagine about mine would be. Good luck, Marty, on Monday. We'll all be thinking of you. And of course, my last bit is baseball money. I only stayed up through the second inning last night. My team got 5 runs in the third inning and won eventually in the 11th inning. So I really hope that they have a few more day games for us older fans.
Thanks. All right, what do you call a beehive with no exit? Unbelievable.
Oh, no.
That's it.
That's not the.
Anybody who hasn't had a conversation with Kelly yet, you should. He's a really interesting soul. I vouch for quality cardiac care in the world. And all of the Orioles are staying amazingly consistent. Right there, 23rd place, I think it is. And oh yeah, I've got a couple of buddies coming up this weekend, coming up to do some bike riding. I just won't get the bike riding part, but it'll be really good to see these guys. And so yeah, thanks.
Larry.
So, Kel, welcome. And so $1 for Kel and wildlife, I guess we'll just wrap kind of wildlife. He's a wild one. And then obviously the library, whether we library with their expansion and noticed that like if you go in with a wheelchair down the rows, you can't turn. Like you can't turn easily in the aisles to look at books and stuff. So we definitely need more space for people for it to be more accessible. So I'm hoping that project happens. And then we went down this weekend to Weston, Vermont, and we went to a play at their playhouse. The Weston Theater Company is I guess a great theater playhouse. Yeah. A lot of the Broadway folks, they'll do the summer plays there, but we saw A White Christmas in July, and it was really kind of awesome. When it was over, there they had snow outside. They were squirting snow. So even though it's warm out, it was really pretty in July. So if anyone they have, I think 2 or 3 more plays this summer, if anyone gets a chance to get down there. It's quality. It's good.
$1 for Cal, welcome, remember. $1 for Chris, who last week won the club big rock card, and she generously donated her $100 winnings to the club charity account.
Thank you, everybody. Where's the guy? Group of people in suspense.
I wanted to thank those people from the club who have gone to see the Green Mountain Chamber concert series. There's one more concert tomorrow night, and I welcome people to go to the Allen Long to see it.
Thanks. Thanks. So right after this meeting, Walter's gonna have a youth and education committee meeting. So he does need members. So if you wanna at least sit in the first one, see if it's something that you'd like, please join Walter.